Breaking Bad is famous for being one of the most meticulously written shows in television history. Every detail planned, every consequence earned, nothing left to chance. Except, it isn't. Not completely. Because underneath the genius, there are moments that don't hold up. Today we go through Breaking Bad's biggest plot holes, the ones the show never bothered to explain. A plot hole isn't something unlikely. Fiction earns that license. A plot hole is when the story breaks its own rules. When something happens that couldn't happen inside the world the show has already built. Breaking Bad built its reputation on consequence and logic. So when it slips hard. 5 moments, each a crack in the foundation of a show that told us it was flawless. By the end, you'll never watch these scenes the same way again. Vince Gilligan developed Breaking Bad with a writer's room obsessed with internal logic. Real chemists, lawyers, and DEA consultants verified the details. The show was proud of its realism. The chemistry is grounded, the police procedure credible,
Hold your horses.
the consequences permanent, which is exactly why the exceptions stand out. The show set a standard and then quietly broke it, trusting the drama to carry you past the gap. It usually does, but not always. Plot hole 1. How did Walt poison Brock? In season 4, Walt poisons Brock, Jesse's girlfriend's young son, using Lily of the Valley berries to manipulate Jesse into turning against Gus.
Who do you know? Who's allowed children to be murdered? Gus!
It's one of the most chilling things Walt does in the entire series. The show never explains how. Brock lives with his mother, Andrea. Walt has no relationship with the family. He needed to administer a rare poison to a 6-year-old without anyone noticing, without leaving a trace, and without triggering suspicion during the medical investigation that followed. A police report is filed. The hospital identifies the poisoning, and yet nobody, doctors, police, Jesse, ever asks how the boy accessed a rare plant-based toxin. The show needs you to accept that Walt did it without showing you how, because the how is nearly impossible to justify. Even geniuses need opportunity and access. The show gave him neither. Plot hole 2. The disappearing security cameras. Gus Fring's super lab is a fortress. Surveillance everywhere. Los Pollos Hermanos, the laundry facility throughout his entire operation. The cameras are established as a constant, inescapable threat. And yet when Walt needs to destroy the lab in season 4, the cameras are suddenly not a problem. His plan depends on moving freely through a space explicitly shown to be under constant surveillance just episodes earlier. The rules of the world are established clearly, then suspended when the plot needs Walt to act. A show this precise about consequence shouldn't get to have it both ways. And Gus's operation isn't the only place where inconvenient logic gets quietly retired. Plot hole 3. Ed the Disappearer. Ed Galbraith, the vacuum cleaner repairman, runs an off-the-books witness protection service. New identities, cross-country relocation, total operational security. The show treats it as completely credible. Ed is a vacuum cleaner salesman in Albuquerque. He somehow operates a flawless disappearance network, forged documents, safe houses, zero digital footprint, as a side business with no visible infrastructure between repairs. Breaking Bad shows us meticulously how criminal operations are built. Gus's network takes years and enormous resources. Ed apparently built an equivalent operation alone in a strip mall. The most lovable plot hole in the series. The next one is harder to forgive. Plot hole 4. The ricin cigarette timeline. Walt creates a ricin cigarette in season 4 to use against Gus. It becomes a major thread. Jesse loses it, believes it was stolen, and the cigarette becomes a key part of Walt's manipulation strategy across multiple seasons. Real ricin has a shelf life. The show treats the cigarette as permanently lethal, permanently stable, and permanently retrievable. Handled, swapped, hidden, and left for months across a timeline where none of those things should apply. The ricin cigarette exists because the show needs it as threat, symbol, and final weapon. But the more you examine the mechanics, the more the logic unravels. And then, there's the one that almost breaks the show entirely. Plot hole 5. Skylar's forensic accountant problem. In seasons 3 and 4, Walt launders drug money through the car wash. Skylar sets up the books, inflating customer numbers, washing cash through legitimate transactions. The show presents it as clever. Skylar is an experienced bookkeeper. She knows exactly how suspicious this looks. A struggling car wash that suddenly triples its cash revenue with no increase in staff, utilities, or equipment costs is a textbook red flag. The IRS and any forensic accountant would flag it immediately. The show that gave us Hank's meticulous DEA work simply decides no one is checking Walt's tax returns. This isn't a minor convenience, it's structural. The entire second half of the show depends on the laundering working. And it couldn't. Breaking Bad is a show about consequences, except apparently financial ones. Here's what makes all of this interesting. None of these plot holes actually break the show. You watch the Brock poisoning and feel the horror. The mechanics don't matter in the moment. You watch Skylar set up the books and feel the trap closing around two people, not the tax implications. That's the real genius of Breaking Bad. It creates emotional logic so powerful it overrides narrative logic. You don't ask how Walt poisoned Brock because you're too busy processing that he did it. The show earns your suspension of disbelief by making you feel too much to think clearly. Breaking Bad didn't just manipulate Walt's victims, it manipulated us too. And we never noticed the holes. Breaking Bad is still one of the greatest shows ever made. None of this changes that. But it isn't the airtight machine it's remembered as. It's a brilliantly written drama that occasionally needed the plot to do something the logic couldn't support, and trusted its momentum to carry you past the gap. These aren't lazy mistakes. They're calculated risks. Moments where the writers chose story over logic and bet you'd be too invested to notice. Most of the time, they were right. Which plot hole bothers you most?